What's going on, fantasy football fans? It's your boy Quan, and it is 2014. It's time for the football season to start, so that means it's also time for fantasy football to start. Okay, I decided to make this video because I have coaxed a few people to try fantasy football. Shout out to Sean, Wes, Scott, and my cousin Christy, who are newbies to fantasy football. And I know a lot of times when I mention it to people, they're like, oh, it sounds interesting, I wanted to try it, but I don't know anything about it. And to me, to be honest with you, there's not really much to know about it. Really, because fantasy football is basically a reflection of the actual NFL, actual football, okay? So if you keep in mind that basically you want to build a team of NFL players, not necessarily from the same team, but you want to pick and choose people who you think are great players, who perform on Sunday or whenever they play, Monday, Thursday night, whatever, because that will equate to points for you, okay? So, for example, I start a fantasy football league and I invite some friends, family, maybe co-workers to join. Say I get maybe 10, 12 people in the league. I can split my league into divisions just like the NFL has divisions, you know what I mean? I can call it elite division or whatever. And basically every week, two teams will go head to head, okay? That is the basic format. You have different ways that fantasy football can be played, but that's the basic format. You have two teams that go together, and whoever gets the highest score, they win, just like in real football, okay? Now, you're going to go through a draft, which is similar to the NFL draft. When they draft rookies, each team goes on the clock, and you make a decision on which team you want to come to your team. Same thing with fantasy football, except that you draft all the current NFL players, preferably starters, okay? So once you have built a league and you have your people who have joined and they've created a team, made a team name or something like that, you all will have a draft. It can be live, it can be automated, okay? If it's like one of those automated drafts, that means that each team needs to go in and rank the players as far as the way that as far as the importance of how you want certain people to be put onto your team by the computer, basically. So more and more I'm seeing that people are wanting to do live drafts. If you do a live draft, then that means you physically can be in the moment. You can see who is picking what player, what players are left out there available for you to pick, and you can fill up your roster, okay? Now, saying that, when you get a team together, basically every week when it's time for the NFL teams to play, you have to start players, okay? So you usually start a quarterback, two running backs, okay? Two wide receivers, almost like football. You have a number one, number two wide receiver, one tight end, one kicker, and one defensive team, okay? So you also have a bench of 6 players who don't play on Sunday, okay? In my opinion, that's when you get a backup quarterback who can play during the week that your starting quarterback is on bye week. Same thing for all your other players, okay? So now let's get into the scoring. Now that you know the positions that you have, let's get into a little bit of how it's scored and how you play fantasy football, okay? Now, every week you're going to go against another team and you want to get the win. Basically, you want to get more points than your other team, okay? So you want to pick the best quarterbacks, running backs, etc., etc., okay? Now, as far as the scoring is concerned, your quarterback usually gets 1 point for every 25 yards that he throws, okay? And we know the norm is around, say, 250, okay? So you figure if it is a point for every 25 yards, right? That means for every 100 yards he throws, he gets 4 points. For 200 yards, double it. It's 8 points. Okay? 250, it will be 10 points. Okay? Every touchdown he throws, depending on your league, it could be either 4 or 6 points. In the leagues that I'm in, usually it's 6 points. You know what I mean? They make it as real and as similar to actual football as it comes. Okay? So, say your quarterback throws 250 yards, which is 10 points, and throws 2 touchdowns. That's 6 points each. Let's just use that for an example. I don't like the 4. So 12 points plus 10 is 22 points. Basically, in my opinion, your quarterback has met his quota for the day. Okay? In my opinion, I think that a quarterback should get 20 plus yards. 20 plus points every time he plays every week. Okay? If he does that, I'm usually happy. And if he can get 20 points, usually he can get more than 20 points. Okay? Now, out of my running backs and my wide receivers and tight ends, kickers, I expect 10 points. Okay? Each of you. You know what I'm saying? That's your quota. Okay? Now, for running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, the scoring is a little bit different. Okay? They get 1 point for every 10 yards that they get. Okay? So, if your receiver runs a route and on a specific play, quarterback throws to him, he gets 20 yards. 2 points. Okay? Get it? And as the yards add up, basically, because you can look at the end of the game and you can see someone's stats. Okay? Say Calvin Johnson for the Detroit Lions, he got 2 touchdowns and 100 yards. Okay? For those 100 yards, he's going to get 10 points. Got it? 1 point for every 10. So at 20 yards is 2 points, 30 yards is 3 points, so on and so forth. So for 100 yards, he's got 10 points, 2 touchdowns, 6 points apiece, 12 points. 12 plus 10, 22 points. He just had a monster game. A monster game, okay? I know the average, that's elite type status and type stats, okay? Now when you get to your average wide receivers, if they can get a touchdown and 40 yards, that's for any position. Tight end, running back, wide receiver. If they can get that and get 10 points, I'm happy. I'm satisfied. You met your quota, okay? And I know I speak about quota and you don't hear about other people in fantasy football talking about these quotas and them getting 10 points, this, that, and the third. They'll basically give a rundown of how many points you can expect from them. But I expect greatness, you know what I mean? And on a good day, these positions will get 10 plus points, 12 points, 15 points, maybe even 20 plus points. You know what I mean? So, that's what I expect, and that's the scoring for those positions. Now your kickers, after a touchdown is scored and they kick the point after, the PAT, point after touchdown, they get 1 point. Okay, for every field goal they kick is 3 points. Okay? And most leagues, I'm not going to say most leagues I've been in, if a kicker kicks a field goal from a long range or whatever, they get bonus points. Like say if they kick for between 40 and 49 points, sometimes they get 4 points. More than 50 yards, they might get 5 points instead of 3 points. Okay? So, you see how this thing is working? Gotcha. Now your defense that you pick is a team. You can pick like the Panthers, the Seahawks, and based upon how all 11 players on the team play, that's how you get points. Okay? So that means if they get sacks, they might get a point. If they get an assist on a sack, they might get a half point. If they do a sack for a loss, they get points. Interception, pick six, where they intercept the ball and run it back for a touchdown, they get points on that. They also get points on how well they defended against the opponent and how they kept their score down. Okay, say they only kept them to like 1 touchdown, they might get 10 points just based upon that. But as the opponent scores more points, it gets less and less and less and gets down to 0. And if the opponent blows them out the water, it could get into negative points. Okay? Boom. So that's how that works. FYI, this is just a star, and most leagues don't do defensive players, but some do, which is IDP. You may see that, which is individual defensive players, which means that you could have a league that you may need to pick a defensive lineman, linebacker, or defensive back. Okay? So, and then you also get points for that person as well, just like I was describing before. Okay? So, that's the basis of fantasy football. If you're a football fan, I know that you're going to love it. Enjoy this 2014 season. I'm Quan, and I'm out.